When local growers put great food on Tennessee tables, that's living green. Join Live Green tonight as we take a look at finding that perfect holiday turkey. Plus, we learn about the green roof movement and take a look at some of our favorite stories from this past season. All this right here, coming up next on Live Green Tennessee.
This program is brought to you in part by
wherever you are in your life, wherever you are in Tennessee, there's a real Christmas memory waiting for you. Find a Tennessee Christmas tree farm near you at picktnproducts.org.
and by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Southern Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education, connecting the grower to the buyer, the country to the city, and smart shopping with a healthy lifestyle. It's Live Green Tennessee.
Hello, I'm your host Melinda Kiefer, and I'm proud to bring you stories from across our great state on tonight's Live Green Tennessee. Nestled in a peaceful hollow near Hohenwald, Avalon Acres Farms was started by Tim and Jennifer Bodner. Having left behind corporate careers to pursue this lifelong dream, the Bodners collaborate with 40 Amish family farms in community-supported agriculture, delivering free-range meat, eggs, and produce across the mid-state. During the holiday season, we find that one of Avalon's specialties is all-natural free-range turkeys. In this story from Live Green Tennessee's Todd Jarrell.
My wife and I met a little over 10 years ago, and we were working in Nashville, and we were traveling in and out from Murfreesboro, and so we were driving in and out an hour a day. And we went sort of from a 10-year plan to a 5-year plan to a 3-year plan to a 2-year plan, and eventually we just, one day I went into work and I said, this doesn't make any sense, we're not happy. And I got up from my desk chair in a cubicle and I walked out, and I was working as an engineer, and I just left. And I drove over to my wife's workplace, and she was in hospital management, and I literally went to the glass tower, and she was up on the 15th floor, and I called her on the cell phone, and I looked up and I said, honey, this is your white knight, I'm here to rescue you, come down. And we're never going back. And she wasn't really believing me, but she came down, got in the car, and we left, and we drove away, and we never went back. And we found this place here in Hohenwald, Tennessee. It was the absolute first place that we looked at. And that's when we made the leap into the great unknown. Had no idea what we were going to do. Again, we just knew what we didn't want to do. My wife said, I don't care what we do as long as it's not chickens. And she had a bad episode when she was a child with a chicken. And so she said, anything as long as it's not chickens. A month and a half later, we had 2,500 chickens out in the field. Bought a book, You Can Farm, Farming 101. I had a degree in physics and mathematics, and I was working as an engineer. But I was a physicist, and when we came out here, became a farmer, so I guess that would make me a pharmacist. And I didn't know there was more than one kind of chicken when we started, and we just learned everything from the ground up, from scratch. It was a bit of an interesting transition from management to someone who manages and does everything. Turkeys once a year was a very obvious next step for us, and we found that the difference in the meat and the taste, texture, and quality has a great deal to do with just how it's raised. The poultry that's raised outside is naturally higher in beta-carotene, omega-3s, CLAs. It's got a much lower fat content. It's reduced in fat, but it gets the critical kind of fat. It's called intramuscular fat. That only occurs when an animal is allowed to exercise. And most animals, including poultry in factory farms, are contained into a very small area, and they never get a chance to express their chickenness or express their turkeyness. We raise them out on pasture and we move them to fresh pasture daily, and they enjoy outdoors and sunshine, and they're controlled from predators, and they pick grasshoppers and bugs and happy birds the way God intended them to be, and so they taste happy meat and the way God intended it to. The happiest time that the birds ever have is when we move those pens from location to location to location every morning. And they're at the leading edge of the pen because they're excited about getting into the new bugs and the grasshoppers and the worms. And so they're all, ready to go when we move those pens. And the pastured poultry, the pen raising method, is such a great method because they are moved to fresh pasture daily, as opposed to a free range model where a turkey or a bird might sit in their own dirt every single day. The pasture poultry model forces them to move to fresh pasture, green pasture daily. So it's actually even more of a humane model. After they're done here, when they've been raised to the full size, whatever harvest size we'd like, we take them and we process them in our processing facility that's in-house, it's on the farm, and vacuum seal them, vacuum package them, at which time we would take them out there and put them on our freezer truck and freeze them after 24 hours of sitting in a chill tank in water and then being packaged. These are our refrigerated trucks that we use in order to deliver all of our products, and we also use them for storage at different times of the year. They're old converted ice cream trucks. We can flip them from refrigeration to freezing, whatever suits our needs. We're not able to butcher all of our turkeys all at the same time. Chickens we can butcher about 500 per crack, but with the turkeys around the holiday season, we're only able to butcher about 100 at a time. So we butcher 450 per season, and we deliver them at the holiday season, and we store them here at about 0 degrees Fahrenheit. So they're all fresh frozen 24 hours after they're butchered. Especially around holidays, we make special deliveries up to the Nashville area, as well as Spring Hill, Columbia, Murfreesboro. We deliver to Hermitage, we go to Kingston Springs, and all the way out to Jackson even. And we're always open to new locations if we have enough interest and people contact us. We're always willing to look at new locations. The turkey's a little bit different than you get in a store-bought turkey. Store-bought turkeys are usually injected with sodium solutions and things like that, and also artificial flavor enhancers. And they have a lot higher fat content that our turkeys have. And so our turkeys cook in approximately 1/3 less time and about 30 degrees less temperature. Now we provide the full cooking instructions to go along with it so that people understand how to cook the turkey. But if they use their own recipe, they just need to reduce it by 30 degrees and 1/3 less time. It's important that people know where their food comes from. And when you buy food from a local farm, you start to get in touch with the seasonality of your food. You start to get in touch with your environment. You start to walk outside of work and you look up in the sky and you say, it hasn't rained in 3 or 4 weeks. I wonder how that's affecting my food supply. And that's a connection that many people have lost years ago. And when they belong to a CSA, they start to get sort of in sync with the planet again, and sort of in connection with the outside world that they live in through the food. And there were times when we just weren't sure if it was all going to work. We just weren't sure where we were going to be able to make the mortgage payment, or how we were going to be able to do this or do that. And here we are 10 years later. It's been an incredible journey, and through it, a lot of tears, a lot of sweat, a lot of blood, a lot of 4 or 5 a.m.s, a lot of all-nighters, but I would never give it up. I would never go back. I would never do anything differently than we have. It's been worth every ounce of effort we put into it.
Wow, wouldn't that look delicious on your table this December? A green roof is a roof of a building that is partially or completely covered with vegetation and a growing medium, planted over waterproofing membrane. It may also include additional layers such as a root barrier and drainage or irrigation systems. But how does it work and what are the benefits? Well, East Tennessee Public Television's Chris Smith recently found out all about the green roof movement.
Most people are familiar with using plant material for aesthetic purposes, foundation plantings around their house, colorful pots, or annual color and fragrance. Another way to use plants that is taking hold here in Tennessee, but has been around for a long, long time, is green roof technology. And there's two different types of green roofs. There's intensive, which is a garden space where you have trees and shrubs and a large volume of soil, or extensive roof, which is what most people think of when they think of a green roof. And that is where it's a shallow soil, almost looks like a roof membrane, but there's plants.
Basically, the roof construction is simple. You take a membrane. It can be a modified bitumen, it can be a single ply EPDM, which what people would call rubber, or a plastic roof, which is a white plastic that's welded together. It goes down, you put down some type of root barrier or drainage mat to make sure that the roots do not penetrate into the roof. And then the trays will sit on top of that, or it's quite simple, or the soil sits on top of the root barrier and the drainage mat. Quite simply, I mean, green roof is a old technology. That's something that people in Northern Europe did for centuries. It's something that's kind of been rediscovered in the last few years. You know, it's a great system for the environment because anytime you can add plants, you can add aesthetic value to a building, and you reduce the heat sink, meaning that you don't have a black roof absorbing a lot of heat. And when you have a lot of black roofs together in an urban setting, you retain a lot of heat right there.
And I'm Curtis Stewart, a registered landscape architect and a professor at the University of Tennessee in the Department of Plant Sciences here on the West Campus, or the Ag Campus as most people know it. I'm standing in front of a small demonstration green roof on the storage shed that's part of a larger project here that we work with our students. It's called the Low Impact Development Demonstration Area. And what we're doing here is comparing the interior temperature and humidity of that shed with another shed that's just a few feet away that has a traditional roof to it. And what we're seeing is that the temperature changes, or the temperature variations, are 19 degrees less in this shed than they are in a traditional shed. What that means is in the summertime, it's a lot cooler in this shed than it is in the other one. The media on top of this is a mostly inorganic material, very lightweight, and we have some sedums and different succulents that are growing.
When we go to design a green roof, there are several factors that we need to consider: drainage, insulation, load-bearing capacity, and environmental conditions, and plant material. And plant material, as the icing on the cake on any project, it's basically about right plant for right place. You're placing a plant material that needs to grow and thrive on a sometimes harsh condition. You think about a rooftop, and some of them are pretty high up. So there's wind to deal with, there's direct sunlight or direct shade, depending on if there's building structures on top of the roof itself, which are shading some of the plant material. The amount of rainfall the rooftop will get. You have to think about air pollution and wildlife and pests. A lot of those things are the thing, you know, regarding maintenance, you don't think about. Pests, bees, for example. People say we don't really want to attract bees, but any plant that flowers and has a growth cycle will attract some sort of insect. It's part of being a plant. Some of the plants that we would use in East Tennessee for a sunny environment would be the low sedums and the low grasses, sometimes a sedge, or some of the wildflowers like coneflower, black-eyed Susan, bee balm. Those are some common plants that everybody would know about. For a shady environment, we have probably the most diverse number of shade plants here in East Tennessee. The perennial plants that could be used would be some of the heucheras or heucherellas, some very low-growing plants that would grow well in a shady environment, grow together, and be somewhat tolerant of windy conditions.
We talk about green roofs, you know, there's more than garden roofs. We like to see the paver systems, which gives a dual use to the roof. Some of the projects, Alpha Natural Resources in particular, have pavers interlocked with the garden. You actually get to walk out around into the garden roof area. Those used a paver that was a recycled rubber tire. It looks like brick, aesthetically pleasing. It's very actually labor saving because the brick pavers are lightweight, they go down in trays, are very quick. The other type, what we used on Neyland Stadium at Bristol Motor Speedway, is a concrete concrete system that sits on pedestals, and people walk on, people use them at Neyland Stadium. The reason a person might choose to do a green roof, you know, number one, energy efficiency. You can get some energy credit for it, aesthetic value. Anytime you have that amount of soil and that amount of plants, you're adding quite a bit of insulation value to the roof. I think the biggest benefit to a system like that is you're protecting the roof itself from sun. The UV is what destroys roofs. So if you've got this plant layer, you've got this soil layer on top of it, you're essentially elongating the life of your roof indefinitely.
As materials and components continue to improve, the application of green roofs such as this across the state will grow exponentially. A lot of people are concerned about, can I put a green roof such as this on my home? The answer is yes, but a lot of it depends on the home construction, the type of roof that it has on there.
If you're considering a green roof, the first place to start really is what kind of resources are available locally. Your growers, your local growers, nurseries, plantsmen, your local horticulturists, and of course your local landscape architects would be a good place to start. Also looking at codes and zoning issues, neighborhood requirements, things like that will be important before you start. People find that green roofs are cost prohibitive. However, not all the time, and with solar technology, for example, the cost for solar panels has decreased with more demand. And I think that we're seeing more demand here in East Tennessee. There's several roofs now built, and I think that as it becomes more popular, like anything, the cost will come down. So everybody needs to go out there and design themselves their own green roof.
With our third season of Live Green Tennessee wrapping up, we have been able to provide you with wonderful stories of local farmers, growers and artisans, and more, all the way from Memphis to Knoxville. With so many wonderful farms, stories, and families, we decided to take a look back at some of the more memorable moments that we've brought to your living room each week, with everything from an 8-year-old entrepreneur to an octogenarian farmer.
The reason that we utilize Maddie's Place, for FDA regulations, we have to have a commercial kitchen that's checked off, that's inspected, that's certified. And in going through the process, looking for kitchens and things, she was willing to open up her kitchen and allow us to utilize it for a while, just so that we could get our product, get it made, get it certified, get it out on the shelf.
My name's Robin Branham and I own Maddie's Place. Daryl and Amy are great salsa makers that we serve in our restaurant here, and Daryl and Amy actually do their making of their salsa here of the evening time when we're not here, and they just couldn't find a place to do it. And I looked at Daryl's face one day and I said, "You could do it here." He said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." So that's where we started. I just let him do it because I think that everybody just needs a great opportunity to go out and show what they have to do, you know, their business. And their salsa is awesome. Awesome. You eat it on everything. But I just thought that it would be great for them to be able to get out and sell their product, because people need to know about it. It's really good.
Drive to the people's houses. Their bin's full. I take an empty bin, and my dad and our employees take the full bin, put it on the trailer while somebody stored it, and I take the empty bin and put the lid back on. Yeah. After we picked up all of the whole route, we go to the recycling center and put the glass in the right hole. The glass is separated by color, clear, green, and brown, and then we come home and wash out the bins. They take it to the place where they crush it, melt it, and then they make it into new bottles. I don't really have something I don't like about owning a business. Like it all.
We have a film that we show. It's a National Geographic film about Pompeii. It's a museum in itself. But one of the most interesting parts for me is the volcano erupted at noonish, lunchtime. And so the way the lava flow came and the way it buried everything in the pyroclastic flow and the ash stopped. everything that was happening was caught right then. And so that means that that's the place where they have the cast molds of the people. Homes were covered as well, and when they unearthed it, people had their lunch laid out on the table. Well, what's on the table? A loaf of bread, figs, and hard-boiled eggs. And that just speaks to me in a very deep way. And I will do the same thing. That bread has crossed all those generations. I just think it's, to me, that's why we do it, why we bake bread, and just keep that art form alive.
But when you actually meet somebody and they say, this is mine, I make it with my own hands, that just, it gives it so much credibility, and so it makes it real. It makes the product completely real. We're trying to offer the best product we can to people. These are the best products. And it's somebody in the community making them, and that just makes it even better. It really does. Stephanie's story is a little bit different. She was working for a bakery. The bakery closed down. She came in one day and said, is there any way you can help me? And we thought, well, sure. Why not? You know, let's give you the opportunity. And she came up with her own name for the bakery, or her own product line. And she just basically uses our kitchen, and we help her in any type of label making and packaging.
Depending on where a local producer may be, anywhere from the I've got a great idea to the I've got a finished product, can you sell it? We're willing to work with anyone. Whether it's in helping them to advertise it, giving them contacts to sell it in other locations, designing labels, discussing ways to keep their costs down. Anything that relates to the business, what experience we have, we'll happily share. Because it's again, it's good for them, good for us, and good for the community.
Just doing the same thing over and over, year after year after year. Right now, you know, there are a lot of hungry people out there, and the more food we can make, the more we can feed. You know, I'm a firm believer that agriculture and farming don't mean to be political, but it shouldn't be a commodity. I just don't believe that. We believe as farmers that we can grow enough to feed our family, and we're happy as can be, and it makes us really feel good and encourage us to even grow more and more and more, that we can grow and supply more food to more people. And that's it. That's all we got.
My name's George Young.
And I'm Cammie Young. And we live in the greenhouse, and we are grateful and proud to be here. We've been here since May of this year. We knew that we were going to be moving to East Tennessee from Jacksonville after 20 years, and we decided it's time to start looking for a place to live. And there were three things that were important to us that we knew we would be looking for. One was that it would be in the downtown area of Knoxville. The other is that it would be an historic home. And finally, the most important one was we made a commitment for it to be environmentally sustainable.
Actually, we had a fire out here, but we managed to put it out. And I mean, it's times like that when things almost go horrible that you realize how lucky you are sometimes to stop some things, and how blessed we have been as a family, and just getting to know my dad and my grandpa and my grandma. If it wasn't for this farm and the things that we've done together, I wouldn't know them as well. It's really been a bonding experience, and it's something we all share in common. We all have held in common for a long time.
We hope you've enjoyed Season 3 of Live Green Tennessee, and make sure to stay tuned for Season 4, coming in the spring of 2012, where we'll continue to bring you more exciting news about Tennessee farmers and businesses who are making the move to eating fresh and living green possible for us all, right here next season on Live Green Tennessee.
This program is brought to you in part by
wherever you are in your life. Wherever you are in Tennessee. There's a real Christmas memory waiting for you. Find a Tennessee Christmas tree farm near you at picktnproducts.org.
And by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Southern Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education.